Hi everyone. We have Ollie here today. He's been a client of ours for quite some time now, and yeah, we're just here to talk about the success he's had, the failures too, the roadblocks and everything that working together has entailed. So, Ollie, can you just tell people like what you do as a freelancer, and just a bit of an introduction? That would definitely help.
Sure. Hi, my name's Oliver Arnoldi, and I'm a ghostwriter, editor, and book consultant based between New York and London. And yeah, I've been working with Dennis and his team for about 6 months. And overall, it's been a huge help to have him and his team on board, and yeah, has really helped generate a consistent pipeline of new business and fulfilling clients. So yeah, it's been good so far.
Awesome. So, can you give us a brief overview of like what your background was before jumping on? So, like, what was your client acquisition? What were you struggling with? Like those kinds of things that
Yeah.
people relate to.
Yeah, so I think prior to working with you, I was essentially doing my own acquisition. So I was using Meet Alfred, which is a AI software, and essentially running campaigns on LinkedIn Sales Navigator as kind of my primary mode of meeting new clients, aside from referrals that I would get from ghostwriting colleagues. Um, that was okay. But I think my sort of both the inability to send, um, I don't know what the limit was on the messages I could send, but I could send basically quite a limited amount of messages per week. I think my targeting wasn't great. And so I felt like I was um, not being very successful. I would get clients, but I think that was part of the issue. And then think the second part is I think client acquisition and outreach is sort of like it's a part-time job essentially.
Yeah.
So I don't think I could really balance doing the work I was doing for clients with consistent management of that. And so there would be sometimes like months where I just wouldn't do so much of it, and then obviously that creates vacuums in my sales funnel. And so I think working with you guys has solved those two issues really nicely. And a big shout out to Crinzy, who's my sort of assistant, and she handles all of my outreach, the initial outreach, and she's been incredible. Um, and so, yeah,
Awesome. Yeah. Very good way to put it with prospecting being a part-time job.
yeah,
And I think that's for you because you're using AI, but I've heard people that, they do it themselves even, and it can feel
right,
even like a full-time job sometimes.
yeah, yeah,
So I get it. I get it. And look, like outreach is obviously like it's good. And as you said, like it got you clients, but because life happens and you get busy with work, you get busy with other commitments, it can be like this up and down thing, because
yeah,
like you're not gonna do outreach when you have three deadlines in a week, and you have to like spend all the
exactly.
working hours there. So, and then as you said, it creates vacuum is a good word, but I would even also say snowballs, because just
Hmm.
success snowballs when you keep doing the same thing that works.
Yeah.
Failure also snowballs when you stop doing it. So that's a very good way to put it. Okay, so walk us through some numbers. Like what kind of success slash results did you see, from this whole process and the endeavor? As far as book calls, maybe like deal sizes and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think I guess what has felt what I found as a ghostwriter is if because I work mainly on book length projects, the
Yeah.
sort of lead time for developing and securing leads into actual clients takes a few months because there'll be sort of the initial outreach, then booking of the call, then if on that first call, if it goes well, we will do a consultation phase where essentially I'll help them outline their book. And then after that, we will potentially sign, a contract for a book. But so I think the first few months, I think you and I were probably tweaking my outreach because I think initially we were focusing on the tech industry.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
which I was getting calls for, but I think when we switched it after a few months to speakers, I saw a much bigger influx of people booking calls. So, say in the next sort of this week, I have maybe like eight calls,
Oh,
eight
eight
intro
roles.
calls, and then next week I have a few more. But yeah, really, this has begun in the last couple of months as
Yeah.
we changed that demographic.
Yeah, I'm really
Um,
glad you pointed that because it's also important to understand, that hey, it takes time, to build
it
these things.
does.
And yeah, it can happen faster. I'm not saying no, but I think the
Yeah.
realistic expectation is that we should have a learning curve before the thing actually gets going because it's just like in a relationship, right, with your spouse. Like
Yeah.
you're it's not gonna be all nice and flowers in the first 3 months when you're learning about your differences and the things that
Exactly.
you want. So you kind of have to go through that phase of refining, and then it's gonna
Yeah.
become the perfect thing. Outreach is the same in that sense. And it's about your relationship with the ideal customer.
Yeah.
Like you figure out what turns them off, what gets them excited, what gets them interested in the most important place, and then you kind of go from there. Um,
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
I think we've been averaging like a good amount of calls, right? At this
Yeah.
point, things started to work, obviously.
Yeah.
Uh, can you give us a quick insight as well into the types of deals you've been able to close? I'm pretty sure
Sure.
people would be also interested to know, like, how much you charge and like more specific things.
Totally. Yeah. So, I guess in the time that I've worked with you, I work as a ghostwriter, specializing in memoirs. So, that will be I will write and edit full books. I'll then also work as an editor on manuscripts, and then also as a book coach, sort of coaching writers through actually writing their own book.
Yeah,
And so even in the time that I've worked with you, the clients I've had, they've been generated through your help. I've worked as an editor on a manuscript. I'm now ghostwriting a thought leadership newsletter for the founder of a healthcare startup. And so that's a nice retainer every month for relatively little work. I am ghostwriting my first children's book. Um, and I'm also ghostwriting a book proposal. So that's for a memoir to get a traditional publishing deal. So
uh,
that's involve writing a few sample chapters, sort of a detailed synopsis, various pitch material to create a book proposal to send to an agent and to a publisher, for a computer scientist who did very pioneering work with supercomputing. So uh, basically, I've got a variety of projects of types and styles, but mainly they're in the memoir space. And
yeah,
for instance, the book proposal deal, that's around a 15K deal,
nice,
to,
nice
to
one.
do a book proposal, and that's typically what I charge for book proposals. For books, for full length books, it can be anywhere from, it really depends on the length of the manuscript, but that could be between 20 and $50,000.
Yeah,
And then for editing, it's half to a third of that usually.
yeah. And I think the retainer for the healthcare startup, I think that's like what, like 1,500 a month or something like that.
Yeah, it's 1800, and
Hmm,
that's
1,800. Okay,
yeah, and that's for two. That's for just two newsletters a month. So it's
sweet.
it's a great little retainer to have. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely impressive that you've managed to gather the variety, of different
yeah,
projects, because maybe this is also going to give you a very good insight in the future of, hey, what can we focus on to really leverage LinkedIn?
right.
But at the same time, you're kind of building your stability with the retainers and with like
Yeah,
the smaller projects, and then the 15K plus deals are just obviously like the cash you make on top. So
right.
that's a great way to go about it. Okay. Now, Ollie, what was your favorite part about this whole collaboration? Like obviously the clients, but like as far as us like working together and like the elements of the deliverables and that sort of stuff.
Yes. I think firstly, you're very What I like about working with you and your team is you're very, very kind and considerate, and I think you're really thinking about how you can help and improve the workflow of the clients you work with. I also really appreciate that you're very clear about the systems you use because it feels very sort of based on evidence where we're doing some trial and error, but once something works, we fold that into the system that we use. And so it feels like this iterative process that is constantly improving, which I think is really, really good. I think also then there's the transparency of the communication between you, me, the rest of your team, and Crinzy, my assistant.
Yeah.
Having that Discord chat is really helpful because it means that we're all on the same page, we're all looped in on the same information, and yeah, I think it just creates a sense of trust
Yeah. Yeah.
amongst the team.
I think that's important too, because if we would just start this whole process, but we wouldn't really communicate, like we would just kind of leave it be,
Yeah,
it's like leaving an unattended child somewhere, like
exactly.
eventually they're gonna do something stupid, and if you're not there to catch them, then it's not gonna be good. So
Yes.
definitely that. And just for context here for the people watching, when Ollie is mentioning Crinzy, his assistant, we're talking about the outbound specialist, right? I refer to
Yes.
people like Crinzy as outbound specialists, so people not don't
Right.
get confused. Okay, yeah. So communication is key. Now, for anyone, let's say, trying to achieve a similar success as yourself, like, what's one thing you think they should do?
Um, I would say, well, I guess it would be two things. It would be ideally pick a try to pick a niche of some kind or develop a niche of some kind because I think it helps you you know, it seems counterintuitive, but I think if you have a specialism, um, it means that your outreach becomes more specific and defined, and then often it will actually draw uh, more potential clients to you rather than saying you're like, I'm a copywriter or, you know, and if you're just beginning, then I think that's obviously you have to start somewhere and just develop some experience. But I think with time, think about what you're drawn to, think about what you enjoy doing. And for me, that quite quickly became memoir because I like it because it's a specialism. It's confessional writing, it's personal writing, but it also gives you some latitude in terms of the people you work with. Like, for instance, at the moment, two of my clients are a former lieutenant of the fire department in New York, and then also a pioneering computer scientist. And I personally, I like that mix, but for you, it could be different. So I think trying to define a niche for yourself that you really enjoy and are naturally interested in is helpful. I think then the other thing is consistent outreach. Um, this took me longer than I would wish on other people to learn, um, but always have consistent outreach if possible, because I went through a period of sort of feast and famine where I was like, I'd get a few clients and I'd be like, great, this is uh, I'm making good money and that's perfect without thinking about the time it takes to develop leads. And then I'd go
Yeah.
into a period of like scrambling for more clients because I hadn't done the consistent work over time. So yeah, and I think that's really what led me to you because I think just having that drip feeding of outreach means that you're never in that position of scarcity.
Yeah, that's a very good way to put it there. Because what most people do, like you start the outreach, and then as I said earlier, like you get busy, you have deadlines, like in the near future, you can't really focus on the outreach anymore. So learning new strategies, sure, it helps because you might learn a new strategy, it might get you more clients, so it might make it easier. But
Yeah,
still doing it yourself, even if you're doing it in the best way possible, you're still gonna have the feast or famine because at some point you will still need to stop doing the prospecting.
yeah,
Unless you want to make your clients upset or you're ready to like have like I don't know like a box of energy drinks here and just work for 20 hours.
no,
It's not
exactly.
healthy and we don't recommend that, right? So
Yeah,
Yeah, I think doing it yourself is good, obviously for beginners, because you wouldn't
Yeah,
expect someone with zero experience, zero clients, $0 in the bank to delegate something like this. But I
sure.
think once you get to a certain threshold, it's either doing this or finding out smarter ways to do things, you know? So that's pretty much it. Okay, so
Yeah.
Ollie, just to wrap it up, one last question. Well, I guess it's two questions, but what was your primary hesitation before working with us? And what
Yeah.
would you say to someone that maybe is thinking the same right now, watching this video, and they're about to have the call with me and all of that? So
Yeah. I think my primary hesitation is I think it's taken me a while as I developed my own business to believe that I should invest in myself and invest in my business. And so the idea of putting down a lump sum of money, um,
yeah,
even though that's like completely benefited me
yeah,
in the preceding months, and has paid for itself many times over. Um, I think I just have that hesitation, which I think is quite natural. Like putting down a few $1,000s. It's like, oh, that's like you're in that self-protective mode where you're thinking, is this going to work?
yeah.
Um, and so I think I was kind of just in that mindset. But sorry, was the second part of your question
Yeah,
what?
the second one was so now that's the concern, right? Which just to add on to that, I think it's totally normal as well. And I think that's why I like making these interviews with my clients, because I want people to really get the full journey here. Not
Yeah,
just like, hey guys, I'm Ollie, I made this amount of money working with Dennis, whatever, right? No, I want people to understand like what was in your mind before doing it, how you went through like the decision-making process, because that is part of working together.
yeah,
And I think that, taking it with a grain of salt is good. That's what I do myself when I look at investments, and that's
yeah,
what I do. Honestly, I would be the one that's skeptical if someone would just come on the call and they would say, yeah, just take my money. I don't care what happens. You know,
right, right.
I've never had such a person, but yeah. The last question, and to wrap this up as well, was what would you say to someone that has maybe the same hesitation that you had? Like they have this like feeling in their stomach that, like, what if this work? What if this doesn't work? And all these thoughts.
Yeah.
What would you say to them, like from the position you're in now?
Um, I mean, I'd say like listen to yourself. Like, so if you feel like a lot of fear about potentially embarking on this process with you, and the money that you'd invest in doing so, I would listen to yourself and maybe discern where that's coming from. Like, is it just fear? Is it irrational fear? Um, or is it um, actually like something real to you, such as I don't actually have the money to invest in this, or you feel like it's too much for you at that stage? If it is, then I think that's a very legitimate concern, and maybe it's not the right time.
Yeah,
Maybe you have to wait 6 months or a year. Um, but I just, if there is fear coming up or a sense of aversion in some regard, I would just take a bit of time to really dissect whether it's coming from a place of irrationality, um, and actually you should do this, or whether it's actually, you know, telling you something like, oh, actually, I need to take a bit more time.
yeah,
Because I think the worst thing is if you shouldn't go into this feeling like you're already in debt. Like if you don't have the money to do this, I don't think you should do it because I think it will probably create a lot of stress.
yeah. Same here.
Because the second thing I'd say is, which we sort of touched on before, is I don't think I went into this process with you expecting it to be an overnight generation of things. I said to myself, I think this will probably take about 6 months.
Yeah.
And it has taken 6 months. Now I'm in a very sort of comfortable flow of leads, but I think prepare yourself for that as well.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. I mean, we want to start this on the right foot, and with the
Yeah,
expectations, and our focus should always be like on how we can make it work rather than having this panic mindset, of like what's going to
yeah,
happen if it doesn't work. So I totally agree with you on that. But yeah, thanks a lot for your thoughts and your words, Ollie. I think this was a very good and insightful interview, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
My pleasure. Thanks, Dennis.